Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever Global Natural Resources Conclave, a one-of-its-kind initiative by Network 18 and CII. And now to kick off the conclave, I'd like to invite on stage Shireen Bhan, Managing Editor, CNBC TV 18. Shireen, please come up and deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. CNBC TV 18 and Network 18 has decided to focus on a sector that is key, in fact, critical to driving growth of the economy. The Global Natural Resources Summit aims to facilitate a healthy business dialogue and create a climate for all stakeholders involved in the natural resources sector, both in India and for those investors who are looking to invest in India. And the government has done several things, for instance, taking away discretion when it comes to allocation. We've had the coal block auction taking place. We've had auctions as far as mineral reserves are concerned. And that is the way forward for India's natural resources space. I think in terms of pricing, it is now market determined. So that has been a big breakthrough as far as the policy front is concerned. But there is a lot more that needs to be done to draw in big ticket private sector investments, specifically in the oil and gas space, where we've actually seen a decline in terms of foreign direct investment over the past year. So with those thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you to have a meaningful and a productive conversation. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
And now it's time for the opening address of the conclave. And our speaker is someone who believes that unlocking the natural resources potential of India will be an engine of growth towards Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Make in India initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Anil Agarwal, Chairman, Vedanta Resources.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As a budding entrepreneur, I started Vedanta almost 20 years back. Like any other upcoming entrepreneur, there were setbacks and successes. Importantly, we built the first copper smelter plant in India. That's how we started. And we were successful in merger and acquisition in India, Africa, and Australia, leading to the London listing in 2003. This led us to being the truly global company. Nobody can believe that we have contributed through the natural resource production 55,000 crore to the exchequer this year. And we have created 1 million jobs directly and indirectly. This is the power of natural resource. Our journey has only benefited Vedanta shareholder, but also Indian consumer and SMEs. At present, India produces only 20% of minerals requirement. Mining represent 2.4% of GDP versus 8.5% of Australia. India is spending $500 billion on imports. With 7% growth in 5 to 7 years, this can cross almost $1 trillion import. India has a better geology compared to China. And China produces 10 times more than India, and almost 40% production of the world of minerals. We can open up this sector by introducing self-certification and have a strict environment regulation. This sector will create new downstream industry, which will contribute significantly to India's new economy. Hundreds and thousands of medium and small-scale industry can be set up to process this raw material for further manufacturing, which can create 10 to 15 crores new jobs. For the world, there will never be a better time than this to invest in India. Under the leadership of Mr. Modi, our Prime Minister, as he is taking the country from $2 trillion economy to $20 trillion economy, and from red tape to the red carpet. With this government, which is very focused on technology, digitalization, communication, I believe that decade will be ours. If we all join hands and work together We will create new India. I wish you all the best, very best. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the guest of honor and keynote speaker, Gina Rinehart, Executive Chairman, Hancock Prospecting.
Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this important Global Resources Forum. It was here in India that diamond and zinc mining first began, and it is here in India that some of the world's first iron and steel was produced. India is, I'm also advised, currently the globe's largest producer of sheet mica and third largest producer of iron ore, minerals that are important the world over. Prime Minister Modi is moving mountains in your country. There is one thing in particular that your Prime Minister said that really caught the world's attention. Quote, "No red tape, only red carpet is my policy towards investors." I borrowed part of the phrase for the title of my second book, From Red Tape to Red Carpet, which was co-launched in India by Prime Minister Modi in 2015 and is available to you all today. Prime Minister Modi's leadership and red tape reduction has transformed India. India is now the fastest growing major economy in the world, lifting living standards and bringing many out of the misery of poverty. In addition, the Indian inflation rate has dropped, and according to business newspaper Live Mint, foreign direct investment has been growing at an annual average rate of over 28% over the last 3 years, resulting in India hitting a high of over 46 billion of foreign direct investment in 2016. Leading global bank Deutsche Bank estimates that foreign direct investment in India this year will exceed that of 2016. Now, in Australia, I am often suggesting that our government in Canberra think and act as India is doing under Prime Minister Modi's leadership. As a result of the policies of successive Australian federal governments, I truly wish it were otherwise. The Senate right now is debating whether to limit the government's promise to tax cuts to just small businesses, turnover 10 million a year, no more. And that means excluding the medium and big businesses that hire millions of us, the ones whose investment we both most need. Oh, and that tax cut, it won't be 5% anymore, pure fiddling while the country burns. Now, I know that somehow class war is back in fashion, the politics of envy feeding that fantasy, that if we just tax those companies then everything would be sweet. Businesses will just keep paying up, not losing down, and we'll be rolling in money. Australia now risks missing out on $25 billion of investment over the next decade. The big guys will just invest somewhere else. Now, you may think, like the unions, like Labor, that these business leaders are just greedy, fat cats, looking after their own, except already you are seeing what they've been warning of. Unemployment has gone up to 5.9%. Investment is weak. The government's net debt has already jumped past $300 billion. Yet what do we hear at this very minute from the Senate of Australia? The sound of politicians fiddling. Australia needs reminding of the saying that has lasted centuries, quote, "The emperor fiddles while Rome burns," and the decline of the once great Roman Empire. I keep reminding our governments that Australia needs to learn from the Indian leadership and now President Trump's economic leadership also, by taking decisive steps to make doing business in high-cost Australia easier, and like India, roll out the red carpet for investors. Thank you, and watch out, Australia.
And And now I'd like to invite on stage our special guest, Mr. Sajjan Jindal, Chairman of the GSW Group, to please come up and address the gathering.
Friends, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank CNBC TV 18 for inviting me here on this very important conclave on natural resources. You know, it's very important that we must exploit our natural resource as soon as possible to build, because this is the time when we are building our nation, and we must not import natural resources in our country. We should use our natural resources for our people, for our industries, ourselves. I mean, the case in point is our coking coal mines in Jharia, in Jharkhand. I don't know how many of you have been there, but this is a huge natural resource which is lying under the ground, which is on fire, which is burning, and nearly 20 billion tons of very expensive coking coal, which India imports every year, nearly 50 million tons. We are importing, and in Jharia, the government need to really do something very significant to exploit or to unleash that potential that we have in India, and we can really use that resource for creating jobs, making more steel, and feeding not only our own requirement in the country, but also export that to the world. You know, India has a huge potential in the aluminum industry. We have very large deposits of thermal coal, which cannot be used or cannot be exported because it is low quality. And we have very large deposits of bauxite, which is used for making aluminum. If you look at Middle East, which has got only one natural resource, that is natural gas, and therefore cheap power, they have become one of the largest producers of aluminum. They have built large capacity in every Arab country. They have built aluminum smelters because of this cheap natural gas, and therefore cheap power, and therefore they are making a large amount of aluminum. In India, I don't think we even make enough aluminum for our own country. I think we are importing aluminum, we are importing steel, whereas we have got so much of natural resources that we need to exploit them. And if we use cheap coal and cheap bauxite, we can be one of the most efficient aluminum producer in the world. And same is the case in steel. If we can unleash the potential of Jharia coking coal mines and unleash the potential of iron ore mines in Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Goa, and so many other places, then we can really become globally one of the largest producers of steel at a very low cost and provide so much jobs to our country. Similarly, on the power side, today we consume a lot of coal to generate power. But given that today, now the solar power plants are coming up in a big way, and just before coming here, I was in a meeting with somebody who is big time into solar power globally, and we were discussing, and the way he was saying that solar power will become less than 2.5 rupees or 4 cents. So then I don't think coal-based power plants will be really needed, and that would be good for the global environment and global situation. And these things are going to happen. Similarly, we are going to see electric vehicles, EVs, and these EVs are going to replace the fuel-based cars. Whether it happens in 10 years or 20 years, it's a matter of debate, matter of discussion. But this is absolutely given that we are not going to. The coal, the iron ore, the coking coal, I don't think we are going to see them for the utilization of these raw materials forever. So therefore, for Indian companies and for India, it is very important that we exploit these resources ASAP. So we must gainfully utilize these resources and wait for the recycle happen in the future. So thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Let's put our hands together for Melody Meyer, President, Melody Meyer Energy.
Thank you. Good evening, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure to be here with so many people with energy. Throughout my 37-year career in the oil and gas industry, I have observed all over the world, people with energy get extraordinary things done. We are the doers. Recently, I was with another large gathering of doers at the Sarah Week in Houston, Texas. We had insightful discussions with a great lineup of industry CEOs, ministers, executives, and analysts. Oil and gas investment in India was showcased with the presence of the Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and executives from the Indian oil and gas industry. The minister provided strong encouragement for all forms of energy investment in India, an essential element of economic growth in the country. Today's Global Natural Resources Conclave is another excellent opportunity to share ideas and pursue investment in energy in India's future. It is a great and right time to be in a country which is a bright spot amongst major economies in the world. Per the IMF assessment in January 2017, India's growth in 2016 was 6.6% and is projected to grow at 7.2% and 7.7% in 2017 and 18. Thus, India will be the fastest growing major economy. In the last 2 fiscal years, India received about $55 billion as foreign direct investment. This is not only the highest ever FDI, but also the highest growth in FDI in India. But what these numbers do is they speak of the global confidence global investors have bestowed in the government, especially in this uncertain global economic environment. India's success has to be seen in the larger global context by shifting global economic and energy landscape. India and China are set to reshape and drive the global oil and gas demand. IEA projects India will be the largest single source of demand growth in 2040. It will be the engine of global growth in oil demand as its economy and its population grows. And as the balance sheets recover, global energy investors will invest scarce new capital in the best economic opportunities. They will seek short cycle projects to maintain flexibility. Domestic supply is essential, so all countries need to consider how to attract energy investment, talent, resources, and to encourage investment. For the Indian natural resources sector, this means stable legal frameworks, predictable tax regimes, sanctity of contracts, timely project approvals, and clear regulations to attract and sustain global capital, especially in these times of very strict capital discipline. In this new global reality, it's thus heartening to see the Indian government's focus on attracting and sustaining investments. India has the geologic potential and the future home market demand, so this focus is really compelling. The Indian natural resources sector over the last 2 years has seen a series of policy reforms. Enhanced transparency, accountability, and auction-based forward-looking framework will have a lasting impact on India's development of natural resources and play a pivotal role in reducing poverty. Under the able leadership of the dynamic and visionary Honorable Prime Minister, India is well positioned to leverage its vast natural resources potential. So as India grows its energy industry, I encourage you to support and develop all future leaders, both men and women, with energy. Thank you.
Next up, we have a presentation by global management consulting firm McKinsey & Company. So let's welcome Henrik Arwidi, Director Emeritus, McKinsey Global.
I'm going to present McKinsey's thoughts and perspectives on India and the mining industry's potential to become a growth engine. So just starting with the key messages, and I will repeat them through the presentation. India has a huge potential to increase the mining. And as I said, we only believe that India is starting to scratch the surface and starting to tap into the mining potential. However, India is also lagging in several dimensions. If we look at policies, if we look at framework, if we look at bureaucracy and red tape, so there's lots of opportunities or areas that needs to be focused on. And We have done some modeling and looked at some different scenarios, and if the public sector and the private industry jointly set higher aspirations, simplify the processes, we believe that the mining industry can give an additional $20 billion in terms of GDP contribution in the next 5 years, and would also create 6 million much-needed jobs in India. So what are the key areas to focus on for the industry and the public sector? There's lots of areas, and we believe that the three most important one is the exploration side. There needs to be simplifying policies, the frameworks. There needs to be red tape that is disappearing, bureaucracy, and it needs to be quicker. Second point is to increase or to improve the ease of doing business in the mining industry in India. The third area that India needs to focus on is the infrastructure, the logistic infrastructure. With increasing supply, the logistic system also needs to be upgraded and increase productivity. And with the economic growth of India that is projected around 7% for the next 5 years, of course that will also create an increasing demand of several important key resources. Just to summarize, we believe India has an enormous potential in the mining area. India is behind on a lot of dimensions. There needs to be simplification of frameworks in policies, processes, red tapes needs to be taken away, bureaucracy needs to go away, and that would give an additional $20 billion in GDP contribution and 6 million jobs. Thank you.
And well, that brings us to the end of conversations on day one of the Global Natural Resources Conclave. And thank you for joining us today at the Global Natural Resources Conclave 2017.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.